Take roll call.
Mr. Elliott,
Here.
Mr. Ballard,
Here.
Mr. Cunningham,
Here.
Mr. Taylor,
Here.
Mr. Sneed,
Here.
Mr. Helsinger,
You there, Mel?
Mr. Helsinger.
Go ahead and take roll call. Did you do that?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm on you for a roll call. Mr. Helsinger.
Okay, go ahead. Did you take it?
What?
You were silent here for a minute.
Wayne,
Yes.
you hear me? Hey, Wayne, say here.
Okay,
There we go.
And Mr. Lawler. I don't see his microphone, but I do see him on the list.
we'll count it as 6 then. Okay, we'll go to no opening remarks. We'll go to number 3. Minutes from the executive meeting on January 10th. Need a motion to accept.
Second.
Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it 6-0. We have number 4, County Planning Commission status sheet. Need a motion to accept.
Second motion.
Discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it 4-0. We have no committee reports. We have a comprehensive planning committee.
No, that should say no report. I think that's
Okay.
just a typo.
All right. Okay, no new business considerations. We'll go to old business. Ready for action, PC 25-21 DLJ Lindbergh LLC.
So this is a request for an amended C8 planned commercial district for a 0.8 acre tract on the north side of Lindbergh Boulevard, east of Wisteria Lane. As the commission may recall, this petition, the information report was presented to the commission at the October 25th, 2021 executive meeting, and the commission did vote to hold the petition for some more information from the petitioner. Abby, if you'll, I think the site plan is next. So this is a proposal to develop a fast food restaurant with a drive-through and a bank with a drive-through on this out parcel. At the public hearing, this is the plan that was submitted, and at the executive meeting, the commission voted to hold it because of this storm sewer that traverses the site. You requested that the petitioner look into this with MSD. The petitioner did send a scope down through the pipe and submitted that to MSD. And then the department did have some conversations with MSD as well, where they indicated they would need to see the full construction document set to make a full determination on the condition of the pipe. So let's see. And the main issue with this is that it sort of limits the building location for the development because you cannot put the structure over the easement. So the storm sewer is currently a private sewer, and MSD's comments at public hearing were that it would need to be dedicated as a public sewer, and if it needed to be repaired, they would have to bring it up to MSD standards. So the image in front of you right now is an aerial with the MSD infrastructure shown. So that light blue line is the existing storm sewer, and the purple lines are sanitary sewers. Looking at it, the department noted that if the commission were to recommend that the storm sewer was relocated, it could be, if you see the dotted red line, it could be realigned to make a connection to an existing port coming from Lindbergh Boulevard. The petitioner does own the sort of encompassing parcel as well. So we have an information report before you tonight that is consistent with the recommendation for approval from October. As written, it would allow for the site to be developed as shown in the preliminary plan, given that all the other conditions recommended by the commission are met. But if it is the will of the commission, the conditions could be revised to require the development to meet that requirement that drive-through facilities aren't located in the front setback. And the reasoning for that is When the commission amended the zoning ordinance in 2015, it recommended that, and the council concurred that drive-through facilities should be located in the rear or side yard in order to create a more attractive and safe and interesting pedestrian environment in our front yards, which are along the roadways. So as I mentioned, the information report before you has this information added into it, but is consistent with the conditions we presented in October.
Okay, do we have a motion? Anyone?
I'll make a motion.
Second motion.
And that's to approve?
Yes.
Okay. Discussion, anyone?
I just got a question, Wayne. So MSD is really recommended to move the sewer.
So MSD, they received the concept plan, essentially the same plan that you received, as well as the scope. And in our conversation with them, they indicated they would need to see the full construction documents in order to ascertain the true condition of the pipe. They also indicated that if it were the commission's will for the pipe to be relocated, they would have their requirements coincide with those of the commission.
Okay. What, Mel, is this written in a way to where if they move the sewer, that they can then relocate where the drive lanes are? Is that what I'm understanding?
If the commission wanted that condition changed, we would need to see a revised plan from the petitioner before bringing a letter of recommendation back to you. That way you could see what it would look like if the sewer were relocated.
Right. Okay. But I'd propose that we do it that way if the commission wants to go forward with it. Because that was really, I think, is one of our biggest concerns when we discussed this before, is to try and not make an exception to what we have as the general condition for drive-throughs.
Okay.
I would agree with Bill. I've just got concerns if they take these plans, MSD says that's okay, put it where you want to put it. We're going to leave that sewer running through there. And later on, there's problems with the sewer. And I got to go back in there, and who knows how much damage is going to be done, and who's initially going to pay for that, because it's a private run sewer running through there, and the bank's not going to own that sewer. Is that correct, Mel?
So no matter what, the sewer would need to be brought up to MSD standards and dedicated as a public sewer, no matter what.
Right. So the best of worlds would be to have MSD relocate the sewer, approve it, relocate it, and to have the design of the building such that the drive lanes were not in the frontal part of that outlot. So if we could write it that way, I think that would be the best and most consistent with what we want to do in the future and have done in the past for other drive-through lanes.
Is that okay with the maker of the first and second?
Yeah, that's fine with me.
Yeah, I'm good with it.
Okay. Anyone else? Any comments?
So before the commission votes, I just want to make sure that the department understands, so that we can go back to the petitioner and explain the actions of the commission this evening. It is a recommendation for approval, but subject to revised conditions that will move the easement or to move the storm sewer line, working with MSD, and we will work with the petitioner to have him produce a revised site development plan that further looks into to this issue prior to bringing back to you your letter of recommendation. It will probably not be at the meeting 2 weeks from now, but at some point we'll bring to you a letter of recommendation consistent with your actions.
Okay,
Sounds good.
Okay.
anyone else? Seeing none, we have a motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, 6-0. We'll go on to 7B, PC 37-21, Insight Real Estate Investment Properties.
Good
I like
afternoon.
to refer to as Tesla.
Good afternoon. As you recall, PC 37-21 Insight Real Estate Investment Properties is a request for a change in zoning from C3 to C8 for a 3.5 acre tract of land on the southeast quadrant of Lindbergh Boulevard and Boar Park Road. As you recall, this site is in South County. And on this aerial, you can see the site and some of the surrounding commercial development on Lindbergh Boulevard, which includes other automobile dealerships. As the commission recalls that you held this petition at your January 10th executive meeting. Subsequent to that meeting, the petitioner has provided additional detail about the proposed development. Department staff has also done more research about the existing automobile dealerships on this section of Lindbergh Boulevard, and we're coming to you today with a revised information report and continued recommendation for approval. So this is the revised preliminary site development plan. It is the same plan as was presented at the January 10th meeting. Following that executive meeting, the petitioner submitted a truck turning radius exhibit that shows the path for large vehicle haulers to enter the site, turn around, and exit. This shows that the 30-foot rear buffer yard the department previously recommended is not feasible as it will inhibit truck movement on the site. So the department is instead recommending a 25-foot rear buffer yard. At the executive meeting, there was a request for more information about the existing buffers between automobile dealerships and residences along this portion of Lindbergh Boulevard. As you can see from this table, a 25-foot buffer exceeds the majority. The distance combined with the landscaping the department has recommended will make this site unique in the area. And here are the revised preliminary architectural elevations that have been submitted. They show the building being repainted to match the existing grayscale color scheme. The commission was interested in who will be the tenant. The petitioner has since submitted a PAC application indicating that it will be Tesla. The department's recommended site development plan revisions are the same as presented at the January 10th meeting, which include landscaping along Lindbergh Boulevard and Boar Park Road, a 25-foot rear buffer yard, that new light standards south of the structure shall be 0-foot candles 20 feet north of the south property line, and that no loudspeakers should be used at the site. So the department continues to make a recommendation for approval of this request.
Okay, we need a motion.
Make a motion for approval.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Second, Lou. Discussion.
Wayne, what's being done about the flooding that seemed to be an issue? I don't see that addressed anywhere.
On the revised plan, they showed an increased use of permeable pavers on the here along the eastern side and the southern side.
But what happened? I mean, that's great and all that, but the site still, that one area still flooded.
This is in addition, so this site will be required to meet all MSD standards, which
I
as
don't think it
written.
does now, though, does it?
No, no, not now. So there will be improvements made to the site to bring it into conformance with MSD standards as part of any permit review process. So one of the BMPs that they are showing here is permeable pavers. Whether when they go to go through that permitting process, they'll be working with us, the Department of Transportation and Public Works, but also MSD, looking at post when it goes into a further development state, how will that water be acting. There may be requirements for further BMPs, but that would be based upon further engineering review when it's a little bit farther along the line.
Jacob, one question about that. When we say it will meet current MSD standards, almost all the time when they say that, aren't they really saying you can't have any more runoff than there is today?
That is correct. So the standards are written in such a way.
Solve the problem.
The regulations are written in such a way that the issues of the past are such a thing that the cost is not necessarily borne by individual property owners. Philosophically, the idea being is that to fix the issues of the past requires MSD to engage in sort of capital projects that extend across property lines and sort of encompass areas. And you see that all the time with MSD. They're constantly working on those types of issues. In a case like this, they will have to look at the site as it's currently developed to ensure that any further development of the site does not exacerbate or create new flooding problems. However, the regulations are not crafted in such a way to require them to fix all of the flooding problems, especially because through the engineering process, frequently what you find is that that it's not always how and why flooding problems happen are not always perfectly clear until you've done that sort of in-depth dive into the water flow movements and engineering work. So again, when they go through all of that engineering work with MSD, if it is discovered that any further development of the site would exacerbate flooding, they may be required to produce additional BMPs, such as a water detention facility, if it does bear out that that's warranted.
It's kind of like putting the cart after the horse, isn't it? Instead of before or whatever.
Well, if this was a greenfield site today, the entire development would be, subject to ensuring that all the water falling on a greenfield site would be treated as such. But because the site predates, these regulations, it's the ensuring that bringing it into conformance to today's standards. What I would say is that because this site is currently zoned C3, it would either way, it would go through a very similar type of process. Not very similar, it would go through the same process. So, it's already permitted by right as C3 to, a future developer could develop all the way back to 20 foot buffer yard to the rear, and they would be required to do the same MSD standards. But through the C8 process, we want to talk about it and note it, that they are already at least looked at using those permeable pavers to provide additional infiltration into the ground directly.
Okay, what are the current homeowners? What are their legal rights? Supposing we go ahead and okay this and it continues to flood. Do they have the right to bring a suit on this or?
Onto the
Or what
county?
are they?
No. As long as the county is in good faith and in good, is in its due diligence, enforcing the rules and the regulations as they are put forward, there's not a suit to be filed against the county when it's.
I didn't mean the
regulations.
county, I meant the developer. If they develop this in such a way that it still floods.
As long as the developer is developing under the regulations as put forward. Now, if the developer were to have plans that they were approved and then they did not meet or did not, or they falsified or in some sort of way, but these are very extreme examples, by the way, then yes, there would be a basis for it. But if someone is developing under, with good faith and attempting to meet and is meeting the regulations as put forth by MSD and all the regulatory authorities, there's not, otherwise, in those sorts of cases, the sort of argument could be that by if that was permitted to occur, that would happen everywhere all the time, and no one would be able, if there's some sort of unforeseen circumstance or something, very bad happens. That's sort of the philosophy behind it. Now, the petitioner has attempted, is very mindful of the fact that there are some flooding issues, but again, regulatorily, they are not required to fix all of the problems of the past, just to make sure that the problems do not become exacerbated in the future.
Okay, so as far as our responsibility as the commission, since we don't control MSD, it's really an MSD concern, and they should respond to this directly. Is that correct?
And they will respond to it directly through the permitting process. So, through the permitting process, they will be looking at, engineering calculations to ensure that what they're showing to MSD makes sense in terms of how much water to expect at the site, how the water is acting at the site, and ensuring that that they are producing and putting in enough, of these BMPs, such as permeable pavers, to sort of be able to detain on site, what falls on the property.
And
So-
MSD will not do any engineering before something is approved anyway.
In a case like this, they will be responding to the engineer. So the engineer will provide to MSD all of the calculations, and then MSD will be working with them to review it. And then we'll be working to, as they install the BMPs, to be working with them to make sure that they operate
We've
correctly.
asked them in the past, and the comment has always been, they don't engineer prior.
Correct. So, and I think that's a fairly standard action, not just with our MSD, but just in general in these regulatory bodies, is that it's difficult for them without seeing the fully engineered plans with all of the sort of mathematical calculations behind it to provide an exact number or exact size of some of these BMPs. That's why sometimes when after a commission acts, sometimes the BMPs are enlarged or or additional ones added when the engineering work is done on it and it's determined that additional water flow really requires a new BMP.
So we would not have the authority to make that a condition of development.
It is not my reading of the authority of the Planning Commission to recommend and require regulations in a higher threshold than MSD, because we are not the enforcer of MSD's standards. We're sort of working hand in glove with them, but we do not produce those regulations and we do not enforce those regulations.
Thank you.
Will we see this before we get a site plan, or by the time we get a site plan?
And I guess that would be what would you like to see?
Well, will we know what the outcome is as far as water?
Sure, yes, you will see it on a site development plan. So before it gets to, they will have worked through with MSD to determine that before the site development plan gets approved.
So
Thank
we'd
you.
have at least another shot at this if it doesn't work out.
If it does not, so you would be the ability of the commission. Although at that point, I would want to know just what you want to see so we can show you exactly what it is that you guys are wanting to take a look at.
Well, I think we want to know the problem is not going to be exasperated.
Mm-hmm. Through the permitting process, I think essentially that's what MSD is stating when they issue the permit, that they to their best knowledge and understanding, assert that this meets all the regulations, and the intent of the regulations is that it does not exacerbate, additional flooding problems for residents.
Okay, and then in terms of protection for the adjoining residents, are they protected enough?
May I, in what regards?
In terms of buffering, landscaping, noise, lights?
I would defer to the commission's sort of discretion on that. Staff recommends that, we are providing a 25-foot buffer with twice the amount of landscaping that is usually required. So typically it's 2 trees for every 20 linear feet. We are recommending 4 trees for every 20 linear feet to create that sort of very dense buffer. And the petitioner has willingly stated that they would put in an 8-foot tall fence there at that rear as well. So we think that this is unique. A unique amount of buffering that you don't typically see for these types of uses.
And we have no outside speakers.
Correct.
So the only other issue would be the lighting, and that should be controlled by county ordinance.
Correct. So the lighting would be subject to the county's lighting standards section of the zoning ordinance. We have provided enhanced requirements in your C8. Typically what you would require is at a residentially adjoining property line, foot candles could not exceed 0.1 foot candles at a property line. However, we are recommending that the foot candles not exceed 0.0 foot candles when measured 20 feet north of the property line. So what that means is that it's reducing the spillage close to the property lines. And we will be working through the petitioner through the permitting process to make sure that they can meet that requirement, as well as any other lighting standard requirements in the zoning ordinance.
Okay. Anyone else? Comments? See, then we have a motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Who's opposed? Anyone? Okay. Passes 6.
Did Steve?
Mr. Lawler is on now,
Yeah, I see Steve.
so he makes 7.
Yes.
So we have it approved 7-0. Okay, we'll go on to old business not ready for action. We got PC 34-21 that was deemed denied at the last meeting. Do we need to do anything with that, Jacob?
No, at your next meeting, we will provide for you a letter that's just consistent with your denial to put into the file and send off.
Okay, fine. Then we'll go on to correspondence. First item is regarding PC 08-15.
Yes, as you recall, PC 08-15, Semsad and Safika Sakinovich was a request for an amendment to an M3 ordinance on 9.96 acres on the south side of Baumgardner Road, west of Baumgardner Industrial Drive. As you recall, this site is in South County. It's on Baumgardner Road, which has other industrial uses, and it is bordered on the south by Merrimack River. This is the site development plan that is currently under review. This was the M3 ordinance calls for all drive aisles and parking areas to be paved. The petitioner has requested to be allowed to use an alternative dust-proof material on the drive aisles and parking areas. At this time, the department is recommending denial as requested by the commission at your meeting on January 10th, because the heavy use that truck parking lots undergo warrants the paving to prevent rutting of the site, and find alternative dust-proof surfaces to be inappropriate.
Okay, great. Thank you. Appreciate it, Abby. We have a motion
Make a motion for approval, Bill.
of the denial. Right, Bill?
Yeah, second, Bill.
Yes. Yes.
Denial. Okay.
Denial.
Okay, we have a second.
Yeah, Bill, second. The other Bill.
Okay. Discussion, anyone? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, 7-0. And next we've got PC 09-21, Better Living Sunrooms.
This is a request for an amendment to CA Ordinance 28257 on a 1.22 acre tract of land on the west side of Lee May Ferry Road, approximately 50 feet north of South Crest Way. This site is also in South County. There you can see it outlined in red. On the aerial, you can see some of the commercial development along Lee May Ferry Road and the residential behind that's accessed through by South Crest Way. This is the site development plan that is currently under review. Per the C8 ordinance, a 90-foot structure setback is required from the east property line. The petitioner is requesting an 80-foot setback. The petitioner has indicated that this setback would allow them to modify the shape of the building slightly to make it a little bit more rectangular, which would better suit their need. And it would also reduce the facade facing Lee May Ferry Road. The department is recommending approval of this request as the revised building shape will reduce the facade facing Lee May Ferry Road and increase the aesthetic appeal of the proposed storage building.
Okay, thank you. We need a motion.
I'll make a motion for approval.
Second motion.
Discussion, anyone? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, 7-0. Next, we've got PC 30-21 and a response to the council order.
So this is PC 3021 NVS Properties 11 LLC, which is a request for an amended C8 planned commercial district for a 1.73 acre site in the southwest quadrant of Sulphur Spring Road and Arbor Spring Drive. This is a request to allow for a child care facility, and the commission did vote to forward a letter of recommendation for approval to the council in December. Subsequently, the council did vote to refer the matter back to this commission with a request for additional screening conditions. Specifically, they've requested site-proof screening of the playground area, which is on the west side of the development closest to the abutting residences. So we have a site plan exhibit that shows the playground. You can see the first red line is a site-proof fence that would be located on top of the retaining wall on the west side to screen the playground from the adjacent residences. The longer red line is where a site-proof fence would be located as requested and required by this commission, in addition to a 20-foot wide landscape buffer yard shown there as a green box. So the staff is recommending the addition of a condition requiring a site-proof fence on top of the retaining wall. This, combined with the site-proof fence along the western property line and the landscape buffer yard, should provide adequate screening from the abutting residences and ensure compatibility between these two uses. So we are recommending addition of that condition.
Okay, we need a motion.
So
Anyone?
moved.
Do we have a
Make a
second?
motion.
I second.
Second.
Okay. Discussion, anyone? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, 7-0. And the last correspondence is a text amendment resolution.
Commissioners, good evening. The department does ask that you submit a resolution of intent to hold a public hearing to amend the zoning ordinance in response to changing needs and to bring the zoning ordinance up to date in terms of the fee structure that we currently use. and also provide that flexibility and opportunity to look at general administration and procedure section of the zoning ordinance. So you can see here that most of these fees haven't been looked at in nearly 20 years, and we want to sort of bring that into line with contemporary standards. And we'd also like to look at some of the general administrative procedures seen in the zoning ordinance. So we request that you resolve to hold a public hearing. The procedure would be that the department would provide you with a presentation at public hearing, open it up for anyone that would like to make some comment, and then we would come to you at a subsequent date with some text recommendations and send to the council.
Okay, we need a motion.
I'll make the motion.
Second motion.
Discussion?
Jacob, would it be possible to see your recommendations and everything prior to the public meeting?
Absolutely. In fact, if it is the desire of a commissioner to, help work with us on this, that would also be perfectly appropriate. I suspect that what will ultimately happen is that there would probably be some interdepartmental review at looking at some of this stuff. And it's always the prerogative of the commission to, to be involved in those kinds of things.
Well, I certainly would probably like to contribute whatever I can.
Okay.
And you can just let me know.
Will do.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Good. Is it possible we get that information about a week ahead of time so we can go over it?
Sure, absolutely. And if it is the will of the commission that you'd like to have a committee of the whole meeting at a certain time to discuss it before you make a recommendation, and if you want additional time, we can structure these meetings however you all would like it be done. But we can make that determination as we get probably after the public hearing, because these would all be actions that would occur after public hearing.
Okay.
I think
Great.
that would probably be great to do it before, where we all get a chance to look and, do input.
Mhm.
Right.
Absolutely.
Not past practice, but, we don't live in the past either.
Absolutely.
Okay, anyone else? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it 7-0. We've got a site plan, PC 17-09.
Good evening, Commissioners. This is PC 17-09, Andy Benning, which is a C8 planned commercial district located on a 6.93 acre tract on the northeast quadrant of Tesson Ferry Road in Town South Drive. You can see from the county context map, this parcel's in South County, and then the aerial highlighted in red is the entirety of this C8 planned commercial district. The next aerial here shows the specific site in question. It's developed with an Arby's restaurant currently. The C8 ordinance requires Planning Commission approval of architectural elevations. The developer is proposing to change the elevations. You can see the proposed west and east elevations, and then if you can go to the next slide, I think the south elevation and the north elevation. They also submitted a photo of an existing Arby's restaurant that this site will be emulating. So at this time, I would ask for a motion for approval of these architectural elevations.
Motion for approval.
Second.
This is just a redesign of the existing Arby's that sits there.
Correct.
Okay. Discussion, anyone?
No.
None, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it 7-0. And we'll go for the good of the order. We did get a calendar, which we appreciate. Gives us an idea where we're at. Then the last item is Planning Commission bylaws. Jacob, you want to discuss that?
Absolutely. So Recently in the department, it was, we started asking around and asked Gail and said, well, when's the last time that the Planning Commission's bylaws were updated? And we were able to find a copy of them in paper, in which Mel then actually retyped them up. But you can see that they haven't been amended since 1987, as I think when the last date that the bylaws had been amended. So if it is the will of the commission, the department would like to take those bylaws, use them as the base and update them to bring them to sort of more contemporary standard. These would largely be probably very similar to the ones that we've provided to you from 1987. Changing of language, maybe changing a little bit of some, just some of the sections in there, maybe beefing up the front and the preamble to sort of lay out very clearly in one document, the Planning Commission's role in planning and zoning in St. Louis County, and then bring those back to you with a recommendation and for the commission to adopt for itself.
Okay. Do we have a motion to do this?
I'll make the motion to do it.
Second.
Discussion, anyone? I think going back to what we just did on the prior item, if we could meet prior to a vote as a whole and discuss any changes.
I think that sounds very appropriate. So what we can do is, as staff, we can make a draft, a revised draft, submit it to the commission electronically, and have either a committee of the whole meeting, perhaps before an executive meeting, to discuss it and some changes, without the expectation that you're then going to vote on it at the same night. So we could have a committee of the whole meeting and then not intend to vote on it until a subsequent meeting, so that we could fold in additional conversation. And this would be such a case too, that if there is a commissioner that has that looked at those bylaws that we sent off and had particular concerns, highlight those and say, I would like these changed and reflect these kinds of things. We would absolutely incorporate the commission's will into the revised bylaws.
Okay. Anyone else? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it 7-0. No other business?
So the next slide is just the meeting schedule for the rest of the first quarter. So then the next meeting will be on Valentine's Day, so we can all celebrate together. We'll have an executive meeting and a public hearing.
Okay.
And what time 6 o'clock, I'm sorry.
6 o'clock for the executive meeting,
Thank
7
you.
for the public hearing. Yes.
All right.
Okay, appreciate that
everyone.
very much. Okay, seeing nothing else, we need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it 7-0. And see everyone on the 14th.
Very good.
Everyone.
Good evening, everyone.
With
Bye-bye.
cupcakes
All right.
and cards.
Have a good one.
You
You
too.
too.
All right.
Go Chiefs. Go Chiefs.
Thank you.
Yeah, go Chiefs.